What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another DragonFlight video. How are you all doing? Hope you're doing well. I'm a little under the weather. I had to skip stream last night because I think I got some sort of food poisoning, and it's still kind of lingering, so bear with me here on this video. But I wanted to get this one out to you. We're going to talk about Feral Druid on DragonFlight, and if you guys actually didn't know, the Shadowlands PTR can now has all of the talents for DragonFlight on it now. That started like today or yesterday. So I think it was yesterday. You can go into the Shadowlands PTR, load it up, and you can check out whatever talents. Your talents will now look like this. It will be all the new stuff for DragonFlight. So go check that out if you want to, and you can kind of test some stuff on your own if you can't get into the beta. The only thing you're going to get into for the beta is like testing out the new zone. So really, it doesn't really matter. But let's talk about Feral Druid. I've been issuing a bunch of bug reports today on Feral Druid. Things like Brutal Slash are not working very well. That's right here. It doesn't actually replace Swipe, so that needs to get fixed. Couple of bugs that are going on. But for the most part, Feral works, and there's a lot of new things going on with Feral that are awesome. This is kind of the Druid tree we've been waiting for a while. This was one of the first trees that was announced for all the talent trees like months ago now, but they haven't iterated on it since, and they have iterated on it now. So let's jump into what's new. First of all, the amount of base crit that you can get for Feral Druid is insane. You can get 6% from Lycaras, and then you can get Mark of the Wild up here. It gives you another 3%. Mark of the Wild is back, of course, for Druid. So 9% crit, because you get 6% crit when you're in cat form. That puts me at almost 40% crit when I'm in cat form, which is insane. If I go out of cat form, you can see it shifts back to 32%. I think it will in a second here. Hello? There we go, 32. I go back into cat form, it goes up to 38. So just really, really good stuff there for Feral Druid in particular, because you want to be critting because you get extra combo points when you crit and, you know, all that good stuff, right? So that's one thing that's really cool. One of the biggest changes that they made in this last build for Feral Druid is they brought in some amazing AoE/cleave options for Feral Druid. So, for example, starting out with Primal Wrath, they moved it up to the top of the tree here now. So it's there at the top. And they added, there's this here. Primal Wrath consumes up to 4 seconds of rip damage on its targets, to do 75% of that damage instantly. Now, if you know, Primal Wrath applies Rip, okay? I'm going to get 5 combo points here. I'm going to hit Primal Wrath. Boom. There, it applies Rip. You can see rips on everybody. I'm going to hit Primal Wrath again. It's going to consume 4 seconds of the Rip that's on there. Boom, and it does an extra burst of damage. So you're incentivized now to continuously do the Primal Wrath like putting the dots back on the enemies, reapplying those dots is not a complete waste anymore. Because if I do it right now, it feels like a bit of a waste, right? Look, I've got 11 seconds of my rip left. It's like, oh, that kind of sucks. I don't want to press Primal Wrath right now because I'm wasting all the seconds of rip. Not true anymore because you're consuming 4 seconds of it. So you really can just continuously apply Primal Wrath, and it won't be as wasted. That's one really big change that's happened here. Tear Open Wounds is really cool. Another big change that's coming in for AoE in particular is you get Double Clawed Rake now. So this is really, really cool. Rake also applies Rake to 1 additional nearby enemy. That doesn't maybe sound amazing on the surface, but let me tell you guys, it is. It is absolutely incredible. Here's a couple things that it really does. It massively improves your damage on like 4 to 6 target cleave. Because generally speaking, on 4 to 6 target cleave, you would have to rake every single one of those enemies, right? Rake, 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 rake. Now you can do it half as much. You only have to rake half as much as you normally would. Okay? Which is very, very incredible. Very good quality of life change. And if you're starting from stealth and you have the talent that buffs that, where is it? Actually, don't know if it's just baseline. Here it is. When you're stealth, Rake will also stun the target for 4 seconds and deal more damage. If you have this talent, Pouncing Strikes plus Double Clawed Rake, you get a double stun. So 2 enemies are going to get stunned here. Boom. See that? 2 of them got hit with the stun right away. And I only had to hit my other Rake twice. Right? So I raked once, and it hit 2 targets. I raked again, and it hit 2 more targets, and now I'm done. I've got all 4 of my targets with Rake on them. See that there? So that is an amazing quality of life change. You only have to hit Rake half as much as you used to, and it's going to apply it to all those targets. That's a really good change, especially for 4-target cleave, 5-target cleave, 6-target cleave, that kind of thing, which I think is where Feral Druid could really struggle. If it's like an uncapped AoE situation, then Primal Wrath actually did a lot of damage. But if you're looking at 2 to 4 to 6-target cleave, it was really, really bad. So now you can rake half as much for Rake. You only have to press it half as much in an AoE situation. Very strong. Saves you the GCD time, saves you the energy cost of having to rake again, which just fed into this problem for Feral Druid, which was like you were always energy starved. That's what it felt like, right? Trying to set up your bleeds. Very good change right there. Awesome. Love that. There's another ability down here called Tear Open Wounds. Where is it? Oh, I already talked about that. There we go. Moving on to Rip and Tear. So Rip and Tear is an additional bleed that you're going to get whenever you apply Rip. And remember, Rip can be applied from Primal Wrath. So this does apply to AoE situations. Watch me here. We're going to do this and this. This extra bleed does more damage based on how many combo points you spend. So if I spend 5, I'm going to scroll over top of the targets here. You can see they've got Tear, Rip and Tear down here. It's kind of covered slightly. 1 second. Let me change that for you. Move it over here. Save. Let me do it again. So here we go. We're going to press Rip. We're going to press Primal Wrath. There's my Primal Wrath Rip, and there's the Tear right there. So it's doing 91 damage every 1.6 seconds. I can continue to refresh it. So again, more incentive to press Primal Wrath back to back to back, because Primal Wrath is consuming the rips, 4 seconds of rip to do more damage, and it's adding this additional Tear bleed. This additional Tear is in fact a cat bleed, which means it can scale with your Mastery Razor Claws. Okay? So that's most of like the AoE situation going on. That's really going to help you to be able to do as much damage in AoE or cleave situations as possible. I think it's a really, really amazing change that they brought in now that like wasn't there before, obviously, in any way, shape, or form. So the final one that I want to look at is actually really important, and it has to do with Ferocious Bite. So there's a really cool talent right here called Ferocious Frenzy. Ferocious Bite hits all enemies affected by your Rip. Once again, Rip is applied by Primal Wrath to everybody. Ferocious Bite will hit all enemies affected by your Rip for 25% of the damage that it's done. So here we go. We're going to do this. We're going to get Primal Wrath going. Now, I'm going to press Ferocious Bite, and it's going to hit everybody. All these people have Rip on them. So it's going to cleave. It does a small amount of damage, but it does cleave, and it's very, very important to see that. Now you can also press Primal Wrath into Convoke, and if your Convoke hits Ferocious Bite, as it does multiple times, all of those Ferocious Bites are now cleaving as well, because you've got Rip up on all of those enemies, right? So very cool talent right here. Lots of synergy. You get that first bleed going with Primal Wrath, and then you can just continuously Primal Wrath if you want to continue applying Rip and Tear, or you can transition into a biting moment there where you're just pressing Ferocious Bite over and over again, and it's going to be cleaving those Ferocious Bites to other targets. So those are a little bit those are kind of competing talents, I would say, where you are hoping you're basically going to want to pick one or the other, where you're either doing a Ferocious Bite type build or you're doing a Primal Wrath build back to back to back to back, where you're just continuously applying the Primal Wrath, getting the extra bleed in there, getting the Primal Wrath, consuming some of that Rip to do more damage. Here's an example in the dungeon I just did of my Rake in stealth stunning 2 targets. So I go, boom, 2 targets get stunned, 2 targets get double damage. That is some really, really cool, like, synergy there between your talents, and something that only Feral Druid can do. Nobody else can, like, double stun at the start of every pack. I'm going to do it again right here. It's really cool. Because you get the extra application of Rake, you get to stun 2 targets from stealth. I really love that. I think that's an amazing, like, Feral Druid type thing that nobody else gets to do. I think that's super, super cool. So On top of that, while we're watching the video here, I'm going to talk about a couple of quality of life changes for energy regen, because one of the other major problems with Feral Druid over the years has been the energy regen, right? So major problems in terms of your abilities just cost a lot of energy, sorry. You don't have a lot of energy to start with. You only get 100, unless you specifically take a legendary that's going to solve that problem for you in Shadowlands, which was like Cat Eye Curio, for example. But in terms of performance, that legendary usually fell down a little bit compared to some of the other DPS ones. And you just had to be really, really good as Feral Druid at pressing your buttons at the exact right moment. Now, I don't necessarily want Feral Druid to become like a spammy class, because that's what basically you're saying. You're saying like there's classes like Enhancement Shaman where if you're not pressing a button on every GCD, you are losing damage. Feral Druid is not really designed that way because it has all these bleeds going. The idea is to simply keep your bleeds going, and they will be doing all the damage for you. And sometimes that means that you're in a bit of an energy trough and you're not always able to cast an ability right out of the gates. Big cooldowns like Berserk help to solve that, because they increase the number of combo points that you generate, and they also save you on the cost of the energy of those abilities right off the bat. But basically, what you're going to see in Dragonflight is that there are so many abilities now, so many passive traits that are going to actually boost your energy regen, and it's not really going to be a problem whatsoever. So first of all, you're going to get Scent of Blood, which we have right now, right? That means every time each enemy hit by your Thrash reduces the cost of your Swipe and your Brutal Slash, by the way. Brutal Slash, again, is not really implemented right now, so don't worry about that. But instead of having to choose between Scent of Blood and Brutal Slash, or I forget what the third talent was, but you get all three of them now, which again, this Scent of Blood is going to save you energy. Double Clawed Rake, the one I'm talking about, where I get to apply 2 rakes at the same time, that's going to save you a massive amount of energy, because Rake costs about 35 energy, so you're saving that every time. Instead of having to rake 4 times, you get to rake twice, and you're going to save 70 energy from that process. That's amazing. Not only do you get to do the damage of 2 rakes because you're putting 2 of them out, but you're saving 2 GCDs worth of time. Really good. That's just me talking. You're saving 2 GCDs worth of time, and you're saving 70 energy. Like, it's an incredible, incredible talent, that Double Clawed Rake right there. On top of that, you're going to get Predator, which we had before, which is when you kill something, the cooldown of Tiger's Lust comes back. That's specifically good in Mythic Plus. It's basically the main way that you get all your energy back in Mythic Plus. It's very, very good to be able to get Tiger's Lust back again and again. There's a new passive trait called Tireless Energy, which is just half of Cat Eye Curio legendary. It's half of that legendary. It just says your maximum energy is increased by 60, up to 60. You can take 2 points into it. And your haste will go up by 4%, which is really good. So 60 extra energy is really, really good for Feral Druid. I didn't have it in this build because I don't have enough talent points. I'm only level 60. I'm just a baby Feral right now. But remember that energy starts at its maximum capacity. Unlike Fury for Warriors, which has to be built up slowly and starts at 0, your energy starts at 100, or in this case, it could start at 160 if you take Tireless Energy. So an amazing quality of life change there, where you get to start with more energy. You have a much bigger pool to work with to get all your abilities out. And now, as I've been talking about, you won't have to spend as much energy on those abilities with Double Clawed Rake and Tiger's Fury resetting stuff, and a few other talents I'm going to talk about here. So again, you're getting a higher maximum to start with, and you're not having to spend as much energy either. So it's like a double whammy in terms of the energy regen. Of course, there's Omen of Clarity, which is the basic passive that you have right now, where your auto attacks have a chance of making your next Shred or Thrash or Swipe cost no energy. And you can also get Moment of Clarity, which is a little further down the tree, which is that Omen of Clarity will trigger 50% more often. That was a capstone talent that we took right now in Shadowlands. It was not usually taken. Usually it competed with Blood Talons, and Blood Talons was the more commonly sought after choice. But I actually hate taking Blood Talons. I just don't like it for whatever reason. I'm not a fan of like the playstyle. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. But so you can take Moment of Clarity now, and you could also get Blood Talons if you want to, which says using 3 different combo point generating abilities within 4 seconds makes your next 2 rips or ferocious bites do 30% more damage. So very, very good damage there. But you can take Moment of Clarity just for energy. There's Cat's Curiosity, which basically says your clear casting abilities will get you 30% of the energy cost back. This is the other half of Cat Eye Curio. So again, they split Cat Eye Curio into 2 different nodes, which is kind of whatever. I don't really mind it so much, but because it's a powerful legendary. But your clear casting abilities will now generate 30% of their energy costs. So again, more amazing energy cost restoration. Casting those free ferocious bites, for example, or a free swipe or a free thrash, those will give you 30% of the cost back. So very, very good quality of life there. Okay, more energy regen. Soul of the Forest is back. Again, you're going to be getting your finishing moves have a will give you 5 energy per combo point spent. So 25 energy back if you do a 5-point finisher. You're going to get 25 energy back from using a finishing move. So again, you're getting energy back whether you use a finishing move that isn't free or one that is free, which is really crazy, right? That's really, really crazy. So the amount of energy regen is really disgusting. There's a lot going on there. And then there's Apex Predator, which is a legendary from Shadowlands. Rip damage. Has a 4% chance to make your next Ferocious Bite free. Once again, it's going to do the maximum amount of damage, and it's free, which is very cool. That's going to save you energy because you're not going to have to spend any energy pressing Ferocious Bite. And, of course, the Ferocious Bite, if you take the Ferocious Frenzy talent, it's going to cleave onto all those targets that are affected by Rip. So there's just a lot going on here, guys. There is a lot going on in Feral Druid. Let me just skip ahead here. We'll go to the final boss for you guys. I think ultimately Feral Druid is looking way easier to pilot. It's much easier to pilot. You really can get a lot of bleeds going very quickly because you can apply multiple rakes. 2 rakes per cast is an incredible amount of rakes going out. It's going to save you GCD, save you energy, get the damage getting quicker. Your Primal Wrath does its regular damage up front, plus it applies Rip to everything. All those rips have a chance to make your Ferocious Bite free. Your Ferocious Bite can cleave to all targets that have Rip on them. Your Primal Wrath that you just cast also can consume up to 4 seconds of Rip damage to do just 75% of that 4 seconds all in one big chunk. So there's multiple ways for you to be doing AoE damage now. Whether or not you want to be focusing on just Primal Wrath and getting the extra Primal Wrath damage going, or whether you want to shift over to a Ferocious Bite build that's going to cleave to all enemies that have Rip on them, or you can get an additional bleed with Rip and Tear, which again, anything that has Rip applied to them will get an additional bleed called Tear, and it's going to do about 100 damage over 6 seconds. Again, it's not that much, but when you multiply it by, let's say, 10 or 15 enemies, because Primal Wrath will hit any enemy in front of you, you're going to get a lot of damage coming out there. On top of that, you're getting returning abilities like Convoke and Adaptive Swarm, which I didn't even talk about Adaptive Swarm, but you are going to get Adaptive Swarm as well, which is really, really cool. And it's just like a really, obviously, great ability. It's going to buff the damage of your bleeds even more. So it's looking really solid, guys. I'm really excited for Feral Druid. I haven't even been able to flesh out all the talent tree yet to get to a place where like I can do an actual build because I'm not level 70. I will work on that. But Feral Druid's looking very, very strong, and certainly massive quality of life improvements. Quality of life improvements on energy regen and AoE damage in particular, especially cleave damage, is very good. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about Feral Druid in the Dragonflight beta. I'm going to continue leveling as much as I can and getting as much content done as I can for you guys to have you take a look at these different classes. But honestly, it's looking crisp, guys. Feral Druid's looking really good. So let me know what you think in those comments down below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please, I would appreciate if you do that. If you want to drop a like on this video, that also helps quite a bit too. So until the next one, guys, I love you. I'll see you later.